Have you ever wondered what if racism was like a virus? Hello, and thank you for joining me today. My name is Dr. Shungu H, and I'm excited to introduce to you a powerful way of thinking about racism through the lens of a virus. This presentation is based on my new book, If Racism Was a Virus, which brings together psychology, public health analogies, and lived experience to help us understand the mechanisms of racism and how we might fight back. Let's start with a question. What if racism spread like a virus? Imagine it moving silently through society, damaging minds, relationships, opportunities, without people even realizing they've been infected. Like COVID-19, racism doesn't always show symptoms immediately. And sometimes those infected don't even know they're spreading it. So racism is part of a broader family of what I call human bias viruses. These include sexism, ableism, ageism, and more. All of them are rooted in hate-fueled bias and manifest through acts of discrimination. They're socially constructed, yet dangerously real in their impact. They often coexist and mutate, adapting to different systems and cultures. In my book, I describe racism as a man-made virus, one that's invisible but devastating. It infects minds, attitudes, and institutions. You may not always see it, but you feel its effects in microaggressions, policies, and practices. Just like any virus, the racism virus spreads when unchecked and flourishes in silence and denial. So how does it spread? Think about how viruses spread. Through contact, through shared air, through lack of protection. Racism works the same way. It spreads through language, education, social norms, media, and especially through institutions. Schools, workplaces, governments all play a role. And the 6 stages framework, which is the topic of my first book, helps us to understand where we are in that journey, personally and collectively. So who is susceptible? Well, no one is immune. In a recent LinkedIn poll, I asked who is most susceptible to this virus. The majority rightly said everyone. Unfortunately, that's the uncomfortable truth. White people, people of color, even those with good intentions, we can all become infected or become spreaders. Some are more vulnerable, like those from the global majority or people of color, but none of us are immune. So what are the effects and what's the impact? So the effects of this virus are profound. Mental health struggles, exclusion, trauma. Generations can carry the scars. And for Black psychologists like myself, navigating systems that both marginalize and demand emotional labor is an added burden. But as I recently reflected in my post, Still I Rise, and psychologists, our resilience also holds immense power. So like any virus, we need an immune response. We need to think about antigens. That means things like education, empathy, allyship, and structural change. These are our social antibodies. Through the 6 stages framework, we move from denial and defensiveness to empowerment and sustained action. Each stage teaches us a little more about building resistance, not just personally, but as organizations and communities. So why is this analogy important and why does it work? So, thinking about racism as part of a larger family of viruses, racism is a part of a bigger pattern. Once we understand how one bias operates, we can begin to dismantle others. Homophobia, ableism, xenophobia, they all have similar pathways. Each needs a different antidote, but the root illness, the unchecked human bias, is the same. So if any of this has sparked your curiosity or interest, I invite you to read the full story in my new book, If Racism Was a Virus. It's available on Amazon in paperback and hardback, and it's also available on Kindle. It's not just a book, it's a call to awareness, a guide to reflection, and a toolkit for resilience. Whether you're a leader, a psychologist, or an educator, or an ally, this book is for you. So, final thoughts. What if we treated racism with the same urgency as we did COVID-19? What if our responses were coordinated, global, and grounded in compassion? My hope is that this analogy helps us reframe the conversation, helps us to think outside the box about racism, and that through awareness, action, and allyship, we can begin to immunize our societies and to create generations that are stronger, more empathetic and compassionate, and have greater resilience. Thank you for taking time to listen to my presentation. So thank you for listening to my presentation. I hope you will explore further the analogy and you'll reach out for my book or contact me on Calendly and we can book a conversation. Follow me on LinkedIn and other areas, other social media platforms. And so thank you for listening to my presentation. See you again soon.